Hello, and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina Casbaro, and I'm so excited for today's conversation and the very special guest that we have joining us here today. Before I introduce this incredible human to you, I want to share a little bit about the theme of today's podcast, and it's continuing on from last week, and it's all about what it takes to actually celebrate your journey and feel good about how far you've come and where you're at in your life in this moment. And this topic is so important to me right now because I feel like it's one of the biggest keys that can support us to pursue big dreams. And I am guessing if you're listening, you have a lot of passion in your heart, you have a purpose that you feel like you're here to pursue or fulfill, and you want to live your most authentic, inspired, amazing life. And so often, for people who are growth oriented, high achievers, I know I have fallen into this trap before of always focusing on how far we have to go. What's next? What am I missing? Where am I lacking? Or get caught in comparison. And I don't know about you, but when I do that, it feels like garbage. Like it feels terrible. It feels exhausting. It feels draining. It does not really fuel me in a way to go after big dreams versus being able to actually celebrate yourself and celebrate your journey and feel genuinely proud. That can build up so much confidence, so much inspiration, so much vital life force fuel to make pursuing our goals that much more enjoyable and help you actually enjoy your life right now. So, again, this topic is so important to me because it's something I'm working on. It's something I see go on with my clients all the time and I'm supporting them with. And like I said, I think this is one of the biggest keys because what are we doing in life if not to actually enjoy ourselves now, while, of course, we have these big dreams that we want to pursue and fulfill? So, if you can relate to any of this, stick around. This podcast is going to be gold for you. To introduce you to the beautiful human that we get to have this conversation with today, I have Stacey Grandizio here with me today. Stacey has been on a journey of courage, healing, and wholehearted transformation. She is a proud corporate dropout, and she has swapped burnout for balance and traded deadlines for discovery. And 2 years later, she continues to explore life with curiosity, creativity, and trust in the unknown. And through Reiki, writing, and self discovery, Stacey's learning to live from her heart instead of her to do list, embracing authenticity, presence, and the beauty of becoming. I have had the incredible honor of seeing and witnessing this journey over the past 2 years as we've worked together, and Stacey's been one of my coaching clients. It's been incredible, Stacey, to witness your transformation, and I am just so grateful to have you here so that you can share more of your wisdom and more of your story. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the past 2 years, and thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Oh my gosh. And Stacey has also been on the podcast before. So if you missed that one, definitely check it out. And I would love to ask the same question that I always do at the beginning of podcast. And maybe your answer will be the same, maybe it'll be different. And I'm curious of what's coming through when you hear that phrase to follow your spark. What does that mean to you?
I love that question because I know my answer is going to be completely and totally different. At this very present moment in time, follow your spark means just following whatever is lighting you up at that moment and letting go of what I think every type A person does is what's the end game? Okay, we're excited about this, but what's the payoff going to be in the end? It's not what a spark is. It's just you're interested in it, go after it right now and trust that the lesson or the benefit that it's going to be to you, it will present itself in its own time. It might be a couple weeks from now, could be a couple years from now. Doesn't matter. All that matters is you're interested in something. Don't hold yourself back from it because you think it's a frivolous thing to do.
Yes, I love that. And what I'm hearing is to really be able to let go of control, of needing to know everything that's ever going to happen, and to give yourself permission to just follow what's lighting you up in the moment and let that be enough. Let go of needing all the answers and trust that if something is calling you forward, there's a reason. and you might not need to know in this moment what that is.
100%. I've
Mhm.
experienced a lot of those moments over the last couple of years.
Yeah. And I'm curious to kind of go back in your journey a little bit. You talked about like 2 years ago, corporate dropout. And in that moment, or maybe not in that moment, but as you let go of that identity, of that chapter of your life, what was that like? Because I feel like for so many people, maybe they've identified with a role or a profession and what can happen. Like I know what happened for me when I went on my year-long road trip and left Lululemon behind. So I'm curious if you can share a little bit about what was that transition like?
I think my first sort of like whoa moment was realizing that this transition is not going to be like the flip of a light switch. I like the term corporate dropout, but when you kind of think of that, you think about dropping out. This is my last day here. I'm out of here. Almost like the bell rang. It's the beginning of summer. We're not going back to school ever again. That's
Mm,
not the way it happens when you're trying to let go of a way of life, a system of beliefs, and also all of the masks and costumes I sort of created for myself to sort of
mhm,
fit into that way of life. Those are a gradual letting go. It's almost like, a basket of like rose petals. You're going to drop a few of them as you walk along this journey. It's not going to be just a total dumping out of that basket
mhm,
right at the get-go of it. And I think that's realizing that let me have a little bit more grace for myself, and just knowing that this is going to be a process and it takes as long as it takes.
mhm. Yeah. And was that different than you expected it to be?
I thought initially my sort of last day in the corporate world was the day before Thanksgiving. I very beautifully thought that I could just get through the holidays, start of the new year. I'd get a career coach. I'd figure out how to take all my skills and pivot to, a new industry. This would absolutely not take me more than a year to figure out. And
Mhm,
it was a very difficult period of time to navigate when I sort of realized that all of these sort of things that I had planned, that this is what I was going to do, all of them were not shaping up and ending up being what I thought they would be. And
mhm,
in sort of getting me to what was going to be my calling or my next chapter in my career.
mhm. Yeah, so it sounded like you had this one kind of story of how it was all going to go. Things were all going to perfectly fall into place. This was the timeline, and once you made that leap, things happened differently. You needed different things. The transition called for different things from you. And it sounds like when you recognized that, when you gave yourself permission to realize like this isn't just like flipping a switch, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to change. Like this is a whole metamorphosis and I'm willing to go on this journey, it sounds like that changed
I
things.
think so. And I will add, as I started to delve into career coaches and looking at like self employment opportunities, that's when it sort of hit me too that I can't, or it will be very difficult to find something that I'm passionate about and want to do every day if I don't first kind of do a little work on me and sort
Mm,
of ask myself, these choices that I'm making, is that just conditioning or is that really truly what I want to do? So
mm,
almost realizing that the career needs to be put on pause, like the searching for what's going to light me up and how we get that started. That was put on pause for a while. So I
mhm,
could figure out how to make these roots deeply implanted so they are unshakable.
mhm. Yes. Okay. So, one thing I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I feel like this whole topic of becoming and looking back on our past and celebrating, our journey is also recognizing moments where we've quantum leaped could be a one way that you describe it. And when I describe quantum leap, like maybe people have heard this phrase, other phrases are when I've 10x'd from who I was and who I became, when I made a big change, a big kind of leap or step or growth phase of my evolution, what it took to do that. Because I think so often when we think about our future, of, okay, I have this big dream that I want to pursue. How do I do that? and people can get stuck in the how and spin in uncertainty and doubt and, well, I've never done it before, so I don't know. But we can look to our past and see, oh, when have I done something like that? When have I gone through a huge growth phase, and what helped me do that? So, my first question is, from the moment that you were 2 years ago when you left that corporate career to the moment that you are now, does that feel like a quantum leap, like a big kind of step forward in your growth or evolution, or like a shedding of a new layer? Like, does that resonate with you?
It does. I know you can't tell because I'm sitting down, but I am 5 feet tall without shoes on. And despite that, if there was something that was, high on a shelf that I couldn't reach, and there was a 6 foot tall person standing right next to me, I would not ask them for help. I would go and find myself a step stool or a ladder, and I would climb up that ladder or step stool and get it myself. One of my biggest blind spots that I've sort of realized is that I gripped on to that army of one mindset so tightly, and it was very hard to let go of, and to think that if I asked for help, that was a sign of weakness or that I was inadequate in some way.
Mm.
And finally, at the start of my journey, I realized that could I do it on my own? Sure. I could read a ton of books and listen to a bunch of podcasts, but if I were to reach out for help from someone else that's actually gone through this, that would most likely serve me much more than a million podcasts and 1,000 books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're kind of answering my next question, which was, when you look back on this journey, what did you have to give up? What old habits, what old ways of being did you have to give up in order to step into this new identity? So I'm hearing one thing that you had to give up was thinking that you had to figure everything out on your own. You had to be this army of one. That was maybe an old pattern or an old way of being that you recognize, like, if I want to step into this very new chapter, this very new way of working and way of living, this is not going to work anymore. So, yeah, can you tell me a little bit more if there's anything else comes up of what you had to let go of, and maybe what did you have to lean into newly that you think really supported that growth?
I also needed to let go of that type A perfectionist side of me. Just like you said, when we want to make a change, being that type A, we have that sort of plan from start to finish in our mind of how we're going to start. These are the steps that we need to do to get there. And this is what the end's going to be. And this is the timetable in which we're following. And trying to let that go and also sort of release the need for the outcome that I have in my mind. That is so tough, especially the industry that I came from. It was, start, finish, everything's laid out for you, just follow the steps. So letting go of that, needing to know everything at the get-go, and not liking it when there were sort of these unexpected hiccups that come along, because that's a loss of control of the plan. Trying to adopt this mindset of just exploring without any sort of expectations. And whatever is of interest to me, doesn't matter what it is. If it's Reiki, go take some training. If it's creative writing and we're struggling, work with a writing coach. And just being okay with not knowing where these sort of like sparks are going to lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It sounds like a big piece of this was letting go of needing to have all the answers, needing to know where it was going to go. And I'm also curious of, how did your identity shift in this phase? Like, what did you have to, maybe what beliefs did you have to let go of in order to actually give yourself permission to have this time? Because I feel like you described in the past of just being attached to achievement and, spending all this time thinking about work, to actually give yourself permission to explore, to not need to know where it was all going to go. Like, what had to change about how you saw yourself, or how you saw your worth, or how you saw your life in order to give yourself this gift?
I did my best to sort of shift that intense, like, this is serious because it's my career. I mean, and at that point, how I saw myself was my career was basically my identity.
Mhm.
And, as I started off on this journey, realizing that intensity, that pressure that no one else was putting on me but me. I had to let go of that in order to take a more playful mindset to this. Remember, we're just playing, we're experimenting. We're playing with Play-Doh here. We'll make a shape, we don't like it, we can mash it up and try and make another shape.
Mhm.
That was for sure a challenge at first, but with any sort of challenge, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And that kind of rolls me into something else that I needed to let go of. And that was needing to be good at something right off the bat.
Mm. Mhm.
I mean, if I was not like a rock star within like the first 5 minutes of doing something that was new to me, I absolutely hated it. And I pretty much just told myself, okay, well, this just isn't for us. Screw it, move on to the next thing. To be okay with being that sort of awkward baby giraffe in the room, like wobbling to walk and feeling very awkward in their body, and just knowing that eventually that will go away, but the quickest and easiest way that it will dissipate is to just keep moving through it.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So I love that of just like remembering things don't have to be so serious and to be able to bring in more play to the journey and to just like recognize of, okay, I see where in the past I've attached my identity to my job, to my profession, and just slowly allowing that identity to kind of unravel and unwind and begin to remind yourself that I'm already enough. I don't need to be an expert at every single thing. When I start it, that's not what is the measure of my worth. And yeah, so I'm curious to now of like your relationship to your worth, your like how you love yourself maybe more now than you did before, like anything else that you want to share that's changed of just your relationship to yourself independent of your work and your career.
As long as I'm having fun doing it, we're going to keep doing it. That can be something as creative as writing or decorating a room to organizing one of my dresser drawers. As long as we're having fun, we're going to do it. And I think I've sort of learned too, whatever my calling is, I want to make sure that it's mixed with a lot of fun, playfulness. This is not serious. And I think that is such a far cry from where I came from too, where everything was just intense and deadlines, and that doesn't
Yeah.
work for me anymore.
Yeah. And I would love to hear, as you're reflecting on all of these things, it sounds like I'm hearing all of these different like golden nuggets and insights that you want to carry forward. What impact have you seen that it has to reflect like this? Like to actually look back on your past and feel grateful and good about yourself? Like how has that changed things for you? And was this something that you were in the habit of in the past? And if not, like what difference does this, what we're doing right now, like this act of reflection and evaluation, what difference does that make?
This is very, very, very important to do. And I would say if you've got a spiritual buddy that's kind of doing this sort of like growth and wanting to go through some positive changes, you can have that sort of buddy with you because it helps. I mean, even in my challenging times, you've always sort of pulled me back and said, well, let's take a look at how far you've come. And then the seriousness and the intensity of it kind of dissipates.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
I mean, I'm even thinking back to the person I was a year and a half ago. She wouldn't have done a podcast. She would have been scared out of her britches to do it.
Mm,
Of, using her voice and really saying what she thought and having people like be able to look at her on a screen. That's
mhm.
too scary and too intense. So in a year and a half, is this, a little sort of like scary to do? For sure. But this person that I am now is, even if it's scary, we're gonna do it. We're gonna try it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, like just celebrating you so hard for the journey that you've been on and the willingness to do this. Because, like I said, the reason why this theme of this podcast has been so important to me is because this, what we're talking about, has been incredibly hard for me. Like, I remember working at Lululemon and chasing goals like financial goals, quarterly goals. And even in the quarters that I hit stretch, I remember feeling the most miserable and the most like a failure of any point. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, it didn't matter. The numbers I achieved, the goals I hit, like, I felt this inherent not enoughness.
Mm-hmm.
It is so miserable. Like,
It,
it's sent into stress management counseling, so miserable. And I just see this habit that is ingrained in people. And this, it feels like this addictive behavior and pattern that takes something to break. So, just like if you're listening to this right now and you have had this habit, if you've had this experience of looking at your past and feeling like, damn, I'm not enough, or like it's not enough, whatever it is, and feeling frustrated and like you're never going to break this habit. First of all, you can. Stacey just shared that in a year and a half, she was able to think differently about herself and her journey. So, like, don't give up. And yeah, I'm curious, Stacey, if like anything comes to your mind as I'm sharing about, a little bit what it's been like for me, of what it's been like for you to change this focus and this mindset.
I mean, everything that you said resonated. I was making more than I ever had in my career, and I was more miserable than I ever was at that dollar amount, at that pay stub, and what those numbers said on each of those pay stubs. I was miserable. I ate every meal in front of my laptop, breakfast, lunch, dinner. I was in front of my laptop 7 days a week. It's a tough pattern to break out of. And I know, being type A, we all have that perfectionist goblin. And even when we have done all this work on ourselves, that perfectionist goblin, yeah, she's sleeping, but she gets woken up every now and then. She snorts and wakes herself up, and then she's screaming, "Why aren't we there yet?" I think I've learned to, rather than try and ignore her and pretend she's not there, to actually acknowledge that she is there and that she's a part of me and she's never going away. And also just thank her. I know that when she woke up and started screaming, what's going on here? That she's just trying to keep us safe. And
Mhm.
just kind of, tell her that, growth takes time,
Mm.
and just kind of assure her that as long as we are following passions and stuff that lights us up, and we're taking these consistent actionable steps to be in that passion for a while and learn more about it, that is part of the sacred journey too.
Yeah, 100%. And what I heard also in what you shared, and I want to like call out for listeners too, of recognizing that this isn't some like defect of me, of you listening. Like, this is something that as human beings, we do. We have this negativity bias. We scan our environments for danger. We're looking for the threats because we're trained to, survive and to be part of the herd and all these things. So there's all these primitive reasons why we've been in this habit, plus, societal
Mhm.
conditioning and chasing achievements and all these things. So we've all these things ingrained in us. And for me, and I'm hearing it sounds like potentially similarly for you, just recognizing that like I'm not broken because this is
Mhm.
happening. Like, I can see this perfectionist goblin, I can love it and know that it's not like out here, trying to get me for spite. Like, it's just that's the way that we've been conditioned. It's the way we've been raised. It's the way that we've been trained. And we can offer that part of ourselves love. Because I think for me, for sure, and I see this in all of my clients, anytime we resist something, it gets stronger. It's like, you
Mhm.
will squash me. Like, I am here. You hear me roar. Like, there's no just like hiding it under the bed and hoping that it just like disappears. It's not going to.
It's just like a 3 or 4 year old child that's tugging at like your shirt, trying to get your attention. The more you do not acknowledge that they are there, the louder they're going to yell, and the more strong that pull's going to be. So to just acknowledge that it's there, I see you, I hear you, trust me, we've got this. That's been working out better for me.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, and it's like when we let go of the resistance, when we just notice, there's that old perfectionist goblin again. There's that old ingrained mental habit. Isn't my brain amazing? It has these patterns that it wants to like be efficient and effective. Thank you, beautiful brain. And I'm gonna direct you towards something else, something that is gonna be a little bit more supportive, a little bit more life-giving, and just let go of the resistance to and know that we have the capacity to create new neural pathways in our brain. We have the capacity to build new thoughts. We have the capacity to build new patterns and habits. And this skill of celebration, acknowledgement, it's a muscle that can be built like anything else. And the more that you practice it, oh, I'm curious. So if there's a perfectionist goblin, what's the celebration creature?
Oh man. I mean, I don't know. I feel like she's kind of like a mix of like a fairy and like a unicorn.
Mhm.
I feel like fairies and unicorns just, just want to be in like the magic of it all and
Mm,
recognize that even in what our perfectionist goblin would say is like messy and chaotic, that fairy or unicorn can see that there's beauty in that too.
mm,
Some maybe if it's a mess, like you spilled a bunch of flour like on the floor, that perfectionist goblin would see, oh my gosh, look at this mess we have to clean up. A unicorn would see, oh my gosh, look at that little pile of flour right there. It looks like a heart. That looks like some bunny ears.
mm,
Just being a little bit more lighthearted, and it's okay to be messy.
mm. Yeah. I love what you said of like the fairy and the unicorn. They're like looking for the magic and looking for the magic in our lives. And I know I have felt this way when like the brain just has this grip. Like I used to feel like, in my 20s, and the reason why I got into coaching is because I was always I felt like trapped in the labyrinth of my mind
Mhm.
and trapped in these like stress spirals, these doom spirals. And I know sometimes when I felt like in that cage, it felt impossible to get out or see things differently, and recognizing that there's magic to be found. And when that unicorn comes in, when that fairy comes in, to be able to see the awe and the magic and the beauty of our lives, like we have the capacity. And yes, there's tragedy, there's grief, and I'm not saying don't feel those things. There's not moments where that's like exactly what there is to feel. It's also recognizing that even sometimes when we don't think it's there, there's so much beauty and magic to experience in our lives.
1,000%. I'm thinking of a song, and there's this lyric in it that says, "There's beauty in the breakdown. There's beauty in this sort of chaotic," and I don't like this word, but this sort of like chaotic mess of it all. There's beauty in
Mm,
all of it.
yeah. Yeah. One thing that has really been shifting my perspective lately, as my business is growing, there's all different kinds of challenges. And as I'm working on my next quantum leap, my next expansion, all these systems that used to work at like a lower level of business are no longer
Mhm.
working with the level of clients, the level of projects I have going on. And in my old habit, the old like lack focused pattern is like, oh my gosh, all these things are broken. And then I finally was able to see it from this like magic perspective of like, isn't it a gift that my business has grown to
Yes.
such a level that my old tools don't work? How incredible. And just like the lightness that came from that shift in perspective opens up so much more clarity, so much more creativity. It's just amazing what happens from the lens that we look at our problems through.
I love that. And you took the words that I was going to say right out of my mouth of just saying, isn't it wonderful that you have that sort of issue that you're trying to work through, that all these old systems now don't work because you've grown so much?
Yeah. And it's like my 3 years ago self would have given anything for the
Yeah.
problem that I have today. And it's just like that's the power of perspective.
Hmm.
curious too if you can share any more of like what difference coaching has made for you in being able to shift that perspective, look through different lenses. Maybe there's a one circumstance or moment that comes up, or maybe it's just kind of an overarching whatever you want to share. But yeah, I'm curious what difference has that made for you to like look through different perspectives?
I learned earlier this year about the concept of a glimmer jar. And I really, really like this way of using this as a tool along your journey, because you're going to have those like beautiful days, where, oh my gosh, I saw like 222 and 444 and a ladybug all in the span of, a couple hours. And then this happened. It's not frivolous to stop and write those down.
Mm,
Have a little tiny like pad and pen with you. Whenever something happens, do it in the moment, fold them up, put them in a jar. And coaching is kind of like that, because you are sort of witness to all those magical moments and all those breakthroughs. And when you're helping me navigate through a more challenging time where I'm struggling a little bit and kind of getting down on myself, you're that sort of like living, breathing glimmer jar that's able to, but hold on, remember this day, remember what we talked about? Let's
mm.
celebrate that instead of beating us up about what happened last week or last month.
Yeah, so good. I love that concept of a glimmer jar. Like I want like some sparkly fancy glimmer jar. And the quote that comes to my mind is a miracle is a shift in perspective. I can't remember the rest of it by Marianne
Mhm.
Williamson. Just recognizing that anytime we can shift our perspective, that's a miraculous moment because it changes how we see everything. It changes our reactions to things, it changes our responses to things, it changes our ability to take inspired action based off of what we believe. So I love that coaching has been helping you add to this glimmer jar so that you can be really intentional with how you want to see your life and all the signs, synchronicities, miracles that show up for you on the daily and let that fuel you. So, what a beautiful example.
I think especially when you know you're starting out as that type A people pleaser, need everything to be tidy and in order. And if anything goes off track, that's like an anxiety attack waiting to happen. When you're working with a coach, it helps to sort of let go of that self criticism
Mm,
and move to a place of more of self love, self compassion. I mean, I think
mhm.
that kind of changes everything, is moving from criticizing yourself to having a deep compassion and love for yourself and the journey that you're going through.
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah. And in the spirit of exercising this muscle of celebration, of acknowledgement, what do you most want to celebrate or acknowledge yourself for from the past like 2 years? And I'm sure there's like many, many, many things. And what comes to your mind first?
I think I spent all of last year trying to figure out a way to still fit in that corporate box.
Mm,
So some of the things that I tried, it was, trying to like, push out the walls a little bit with my elbows. I think finally at the beginning of this year, I realized like
mm,
we can't, I can't go back to that.
mm,
And I will still feel misunderstood and stifled if I stay in that box, even if I make it just a little bit bigger.
mm,
That huge shift from finally saying
mm,
farewell to that person. And just like we talked about, that took almost a year and a half. It was getting rid of most of my corporate clothes. And then earlier this year, getting rid of my just in case we have to go back to corporate clothes. And then
mhm,
finally, a few months ago, making the very conscious choice, I am not going to renew my professional license at the end of
mhm,
this month. We're
mm.
not doing that. That would be a crazy message to send to my higher self, that we're not trusting in the process of it all and that it will all unfold as it needs to.
Yeah, and it takes so much courage to step into the mystery, to step into the void. And one thing I realize again and again and again, and I see with clients again and again and again, is that to make a change, so often, especially if it's like a total identity shift or like big or small, actually, it doesn't even really matter. But oftentimes, the first thing that's required is to make space.
Mhm.
And we don't always get to know what's next until we make the space. So, this process for you of letting go of the clothes, letting go of the certification, is that process of making space. And that's when the universe is like, like now I'm ready to help you fill this void. You've got this like clean slate, this empty table that's just waiting to be filled. It's like if you clear out a whole shelf on your bookshelf, then like the next perfect book is going to come to you because you've made this space for it.
Mhm.
And that's just what I'm hearing in this year and a half journey. And again, like it takes so much courage to be willing to like take that step into the dark forest and not know where the path is going to lead. So I'm
Mhm.
just so excited for you as you continue on this journey of discovery. And like you said at the very beginning, trusting the sparks that are lighting the way. It's like the path is being lit as you're walking it. So, huge celebration and acknowledgement of you for having the courage to follow that path.
Mm. Thank you.
And if there was one thing you wanted people to remember from this conversation, what would that be? What would you want to tell them?
I would probably double down on what I just said, is that this concept of becoming, it also kind of goes hand in hand with the unbecoming and that gradual letting go of that person that you had been for so long. It won't be overnight, but as you start to shed layer after layer, then that makes room for the person that you are shooting for to come in.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and, like, embracing both phases of the journey, the becoming, the unbecoming, the expansion, the contraction, like, these things can all happen simultaneously, and it sounds like an invitation to really embrace it. So if you're in that phase of unbecoming, beautiful. That's something to celebrate too, and what a beautiful reminder and call out to, yeah, love yourself in all phases and all seasons of life, whatever it is. Amazing. Well, if people are in Baltimore and they want to come visit you, they want to get to know you more, is there any places where they can do that?
Absolutely. So if anyone is in the Baltimore area, come visit me at Hamden at the Space Within on Chestnut, right next to Common Grounds. I'm there Wednesdays and Fridays and occasionally Saturdays. So if anybody feels called, drop in and test my crystal knowledge.
Ooh, I still haven't been there yet, so I am so excited to come visit. And yeah, I know that this was another spark that you've been following and seeing where it leads. So I love that. And Stacey, thank you so much for being here with me today. This conversation has just really deeply resonated with me. And I believe and hope that it will resonate with people listening. And also for you listening, if this concept is striking a chord with you, if you want to be able to look at your past and celebrate your journey and your becoming and how everything that it took to get you to this moment, I'm hosting an event on November 11th called Becoming. And it is all about this. We're going to spend time in meditation, in movement, in reflection, with feng shui to really look back on your past so that you can feel genuinely proud, excited, grateful for your journey, and that can fuel you moving forward. So if that speaks to you, go to ginakasbaro.com/becoming and join us. You can bring a friend for free. All are welcome. It's going to be a really incredible experience, and I just cannot wait to have you there. So again, thank you for listening. Stacey, thank you so much for joining me. This was just such a gift to have you here.
Thank you so much. This has been really fun.